This is MRN Out Loud on MRN.com, presented by Bloomin' Mondays at Outback Steakhouse.
Hey everybody, welcome to the first edition of MRN Out Loud from the Motor Racing Network. I'm Woody Cain, joined by my friend Alex Hayden. He's our new anchor at the Motor Racing Network. You may have heard him in the booth already over various other races, but you probably know him most from his work on pit road with the network. Today, we've got a treat for you. Our first show is coming from the ISC Archives and Research Center in Daytona Beach. And I know when you first walked in the door, you were like a kid at Christmas looking at all the candy around here.
I was, and I think anybody would be that's a race fan, and you don't necessarily have to be a race fan to really be in awe of what they have here. It's spectacular. This is my first time in here as well. Mm-hmm. What a place.
I see you brought your rocket ship for show
and
tell.
The Bluebird is here with us. I brought that along. That's what I drove down the beach to get here today.
All right.
But the Bluebird set the speed record. It's in here. You can get up close and personal, as close as we are to it, if not closer. It's cool. You got the 1961 Daytona 500 winning car right behind you.
Yeah.
Marvin Panch, the old Smoky unit car, best damn garage in town, and it's painted right on the side of this race car. What a phenomenal place.
All kinds of pictures, old school machines, old programs. There's even a replica of Bill France's office in here, down to the T, everything.
And it's real stuff.
Yeah.
It is not a replica couch. It's not the replica desk or chair. It is Bill France Sr.'s original stuff that he had in his office. They put it in a closet and storage, and then, you know what? They decided, let's set it all back out and put it up and be a part of the tour. It is spectacular.
We're going to walk around and show you some of the stuff as we go through the podcast here. But first, let's start with Alex. You move into the anchor booth this year for the Cup races. Tell me how you got from point A to point B, because we don't have to go all the way back to birth, but you know what I'm talking about.
Well, luck I think, is a lot to do with it, and just the passion of the sport and the passion for MRN and what it is. I was a fan listening to MRN as a kid, but this is starting my 23rd year with MRN. Yeah, I'm old.
I was going to say, I didn't think you were older than 22.
I am old. The top of my head shows it. But no, I'm looking forward to it. I started off as a turn announcer with MRN back in 1997. Graduated, went to pit road. They needed some help there, and been basically a pit reporter for the last 15, 18 years, and it's been great. And mix in some booth work, mix in some turn work along the way, but Joe Moore decided that after 30-plus years of being with MRN, it was time to go fishing more down in the Florida Keys.
Kind of makes me a little jealous, right?
Not a bad way to do it. So I was fortunate enough to get tapped on the shoulder and said, okay, you're the next one. So looking forward to it.
But it wasn't like you just started in this. You had kind of a curvy road to get here. I mean, you've even done some acting, right?
I have, yeah. You know, I was one of those lost college students. I was at East Carolina University in Greenville, North Carolina, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Initially, it was like, yeah, I want to go into medicine. I wanted to be a trauma surgeon. I knew exactly.
Were you watching like the doctor shows on TV and all?
No, I really didn't. You know, my mother worked in an emergency room, so I kind of was around it, I was exposed to it. And when I was 16 years old and still in high school, I was fortunate enough to be able to get a little part-time job working in the emergency room and learning some things and being very close to the physicians.
So wait, did you see some of the crazy stuff that goes on up close and personal?
I was actually a 16-year-old kid, but I was in charge of the morgue when I was on duty.
What?
So I had the keys to the morgue, and yes, I won't tell you what hospital and where we were, but we used to have some fun with some pranks, doing things like that too. So, but I was 16. You got to prank.
Right.
Yeah, here I am at 48. I still prank just as much as I did. But and then I kind of wasn't sure. I realized I didn't want to be in school for another 20 years.
Like a lot of people. Yeah.
And I had some family in Orlando, Florida that worked at Universal Studios. They offered me a chance to come and audition to be an actor there. Couldn't guarantee anything from that, and became an actor. One thing kind of led to another, got into racing, and I still have the acting bug a little bit. So I stayed with it and did a couple of seasons with One Tree Hill TV show and some other things as well. So yeah,
what was your character? What was your character's name?
Different character. I didn't actually have a name. I was a bit part, so the character actor.
Okay.
I was actually a physician. I was
were
a
you
surgeon,
really?
that I had to operate on one of the main characters that was burned in a
MD.
fire. I've been a police officer, a basketball referee, gosh, all kinds of different things. I used car salesman. Whatever the.
Did you get like the plaid pants and all that stuff and the white belt to go with it?
I tried to show up with that, but they wouldn't let me because they let me bring my own wardrobe in. it had to get approved, and they were like, okay, no, we're not gonna go that far.
Yeah.
Good idea, but that's a little bit too extreme. But it was a lot of fun, and I still enjoy it, and I would love to continue on. I still have my acting agent, so I keep in touch with her, and maybe, who knows, maybe we can figure something out.
Yeah. Do you remember your very first time working with MRN?
I do.
What happened?
It was...
Obviously, it must have been okay because you're still here.
It was frightening.
Yeah?
And I remember it, but a lot of the race itself, I don't remember too much about. It was in Rockingham, North Carolina. Was my first on-air broadcast with MRN. It was for the Busch race, the 200-miler there at Rockingham. Right after Speedweeks in Daytona, we went straight to Rockingham.
And you were on pit road?
I was in the turn.
Oh, in the turn, okay.
I worked the backstretch in turns 3 and 4. Alan Bestwick, Barney Hall were the anchors.
Wow.
Joe Moore was working turns 1 and 2, who I was going to be taking the drops from over on the backstretch. And we had Jim Phillips, Winston Kelly on pit road. And I remember Jim Phillips, we called him Chopper. We walk out of the truck, and I've got my equipment on. I'm terrified. I didn't even know how to get out to my turn position over in turn number 3. So I'm just trying to wander away from the truck, and I heard this big, burly, deep voice. Hey, new guy, don't mess this up. And that was Jim Phillips.
Yeah.
And I thought immediately,
it might have been a little saltier than that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
maybe some different verbiage there too. But I was frozen immediately. It's like, is he kidding? Is he not kidding?
Yeah.
And Chop just turned and walked away after he said it and
So
went on to pit road. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I
my
was
gosh.
shaking in my boots.
Yeah.
Went on out there, and we went live. And once we got a couple of laps in, it's just you settle in and you go with it. But it still was all kind of new to me because I had never done play-by-play or radio of any kind until literally 10 months prior. And when I got hired at a local short track, Southern National Speedway in Kenly, North Carolina, and Wayne County Speedway in Goldsboro, North Carolina, they hired me literally 10 months prior to that and gave me a shot as a PA announcer. First time I'd ever done any kind of play-by-play.
And you got the bug, evidently.
I did. I fell in love with it. And I was a sports guy. I was a race fan growing up just outside of Indianapolis. So it was a lot of fun. And I guess I've fooled enough people for enough years.
That's what I say, too. You mentioned something interesting, though, and I get asked this a lot, and I know you probably do, too. You mentioned getting the drops from Joe Moore. A lot of people ask, how do you guys know when to go and when to stop and all that? Explain for folks what goes on behind the scenes there.
Our legendary leader, Barney Hall, and everybody who's a race fan knows the name Barney Hall. He one of the best things he ever told me, and his best advice to me was literally that first race weekend back in '97 at Rockingham. He said, listen, son, because he called me son. I think he called everybody son.
Yes, he did. Me too.
Yeah. But he said listening is as much as it is talking with MRN. So you better be able to listen to what everybody's saying. So how we do it, and we did it then to this day, all of our microphones, as you know, are all hot. So for those who don't know how it works, if we push the button or turn the pit mic on, it's going over the air.
Yeah.
So everybody's mics are hot all the time. And when you work a turn position, for instance,
You just have a button so you're not constantly hearing what's around you.
In pit road, since we got to do interviews, we have a regular microphone. We go back and forth that you turn off and on with your thumb. With the turn guys, you got to have some binoculars. So you have another wire and a boom microphone that comes in front of your face, and a little push button that you push and hold down to talk and let off when you're done. So you listen to what the person in front of you is saying, and you generally know that they're going to drop it. What we like to say is, at our feet.
Right.
So Dave Moody, for instance, here in Daytona is going to be standing on top of that Sunoco tower just on the outside of turn number 2. So Mike Bagley, who's working the backstretch this week in Daytona, he knows somewhere around that Sunoco tower, Dave's going to drop the call.
Right, so he already knows what to look for before he ever starts.
In that area.
Right.
And then it comes down to listening. Just like we're talking, just like anybody who has a conversation with anyone, most people, when they come to an end of a sentence, their voice goes down. That's just...
Or the inflection changes in some way. Yeah.
So the voice changes. You have to listen to that and have a general sight line of that particular area where they're supposed to drop. But it's about listening to the person in front of you.
You mentioned Daytona. Let's talk a little bit about racing, what we've seen so far. Huge year with all these 2019 rules package changes, but we're not seeing that yet at Daytona. They're getting through some of the inventory of equipment they had using the old rules, so to speak. After this, we'll start to move toward it. But so far at Daytona, what's jumped out at you?
You know what? I think the two things based off of what we've seen in this opening weekend was the Hendrick cars. And more specifically, that whole storyline of 7-time champions, Jimmy Johnson, Chad Knaus. We all know that they've been divided up, still at Hendrick Motorsports. Jimmy Johnson with Kevin Mindering as the crew chief, Chad Knaus now crew chiefing William Byron. Well, Chad goes out with Byron and wins the pole for the Daytona 500. And just a few hours later, Jimmy comes out and wins the Advanced Auto Parts Clash. So I think that's been the big thing that stood out to me. Also, I think with the particular package that we're running as far as rules go, it's the same rules package we ran at Daytona last year. So nothing's really changed with that. These cars are kind of difficult to drive on the straightaways.
Yeah, and if you look, the back ends, the way they want to get them out of the air, it looks like the top of the rear wheels are just jammed up in the trunk.
Yeah, it's really unique looking, but it's really cool all at the same time because these are slick, down-to-the-ground race cars and very aerodynamic, but it kind of has to retrain your brain. You're used to thinking, if I'm going into a turn at 200 miles an hour, that's going to be hard to control.
Yeah.
But the drivers are saying just the opposite. When we're on these flat straightaways here at Daytona, just the way the car is and with the air over the car and in the draft, the car starts dancing and it's kind of a handful.
Yeah.
So
Daniel Hemrick was saying it's like driving over a speed bump with no suspension.
Exactly.
It'll rattle the fillings out of your head.
Yeah.
But it looks smooth as glass from a wider type shot.
It is anything but when you're holding onto the steering wheel. So I think those are some of the biggest things that are jumping out. And it's early in speed weeks, but I think we're going to be in for a heck of a Daytona 500.
Here's something that occurred to me yesterday. You mentioned the clash. Jimmy Johnson moves to the inside of Paul Menard, who was dominating that race. Contact happens. Everybody, except for maybe, 4 cars gets torn up. Let's go back then to the Roval last year. He and Martin Truex Jr. get together. Jimmy's looking for that 8th championship to be the all-time leader. Is there a little more salt coming from old 7-time, you think, right now? Or is he just like, you know what, I see all these guys going for it in the playoffs, I'm going to go for it too?
I don't necessarily call it salt. I like the way you described that. I haven't thought of it that way. I call it fire.
Yeah.
I think Jimmy Johnson, and a lot of people say, you've won 7 championships. He's tied Dale Earnhardt. He's tied the King, Richard Petty. Jimmy Johnson still has fire in his belly. He wants to win races, and he wants to win not just another championship, but more championships. And in order to have that drive, you better have that fire in your belly, and I think Jimmy Johnson has it. And I think he's just trying to put a statement out, not only to the competition, but to his team and to everybody who supports him, the new sponsor, an Ally Bank. He's trying to show everybody, I'm in this, and I'm 100% committed to this. I'm ready to go, and I'm going to do what it takes.
You know, it struck me as well, and I agree with the way you characterize it, but the thing that gets me is everybody had been on social media anyway, and I know I'm taking that with a grain of salt, complained about, oh, they're just riding around. Well, when it came right down to it, here's a 7-time champion with every reason in the world to sit there and coast home in 2nd place. He didn't. He went for it. Did it cause a wreck? Yeah. But he went for it. That's what people say they want all the time, and he did it. He didn't have to do that. He could have just cruised and said, yep, pretty good start for our new crew chief, new sponsor, all that, but he didn't do that. He didn't settle.
No, he did not. And to get out of a race car, how many times have we heard it say, oh, it's hard to pass. You know what, let's look at it, let's ride in line. No, I love it. He went for the win, and he was going to get there, or he was going to wreck, one of the two. And I love the fact that that's, as a race fan myself, just like you, just like all of us, we want to see race car drivers race.
Go for it.
And he went for it. And no, it's no fun to watch half the field, or in this case, 3/4 of the field get torn up. But on the same token, there's a race to be won. There's a big check and there's a trophy. No points were on the line, so it didn't even matter. And I don't think it would matter anyway if there were points on the line. We want to see race car drivers, especially at the top level, go for it and win races.
You think we'll see something different in the duel at Daytona on Thursday night?
I do. I think the Gander
I know
RV
they're different
duel,
cars, but yeah.
I do because of the cars, and I'm glad you said that, because I don't think you're going to see them as aggressive, because the cars they race in Thursday night duel are the cars they need for the Daytona 500. Yes, the duel is a fantastic race. Yes, there is some prestige. Anytime you can go to Gatorade Victory Lane at the World Center of Racing, that's
big.
huge.
Yeah.
That's absolutely huge.
Big.
But you need that race car. That is your primary race car for a reason. And I know teams are going to tell you our backup's just as good.
Well, then why didn't you pick that one?
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a reason why that car is your primary.
However small that reason may be, there is a reason.
So I think we're going to have a lot of drivers mix it up, because keep in mind, the Clash was only 20 cars. it was a limited field. Now, with the dual, those who did not get that race experience Sunday afternoon, they're going to have to see what their car is going to do in the draft. And even the drivers who race the Clash, as you pointed out, they're different race cars. So you need to make sure your 500 car can move around in the air. So I think the first half of the race, and if there's restarts, you're going to see some drafting. You're going to see some 2 and 3 wide racing. But overall, these drivers are going to have not only the spotter in the ear, but they're going to have crew chief in their ear saying, hey, look, we need this car.
Take it easy. We need that.
We need this car.
Yeah, bring it home in one piece. Listen, we're at the ISC Archives and Research Center in Daytona. You folks can come visit if you go through Daytona International Speedway. The DIS tours, the VIP package lets you come and see all this stuff. We're going to show you a lot of what is around here as well. Don't forget, though, we're sponsored by Outback Steakhouse, home of the Bloomin' Monday. Make sure you go by and tell them you heard about Outback Steakhouse on the Motor Racing Network. I'm Woody Cain. That's Alex Hayden. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll show you some of the really cool stuff around here.
I'm not blooming good, I'm blooming great. Put a shrimp on the barbie and sizzle my steak. Woo, I want that onion to bloom and it get in my senses like a sonic boom. No rules, just right. So bold, so nice. And I'm so ready for that Outback steak tonight. Outback Steakhouse, that's what it's all about. Outback Steakhouse, blooming great.
On February 17th, the stage will be set for racing's greatest day, the Daytona 500. A day that delivers four-wide excitement, legendary moments, and unforgettable finishes. A day that keeps you on the edge of your seat and that you'll remember forever. The greatest race awaits. Experience the thrill of the Daytona 500 in person. Guarantee your seats before they sell out at Daytona500.com.
Winged Nation with Steve Post, Aaron Evernham, and Ashley Stremme. Your destination for all things winged sprint cars. Each Saturday at 8:30 and 11:30 a.m. on MAV TV. Live at noon on wingednation.com and Facebook Live. Join us for in-depth conversations with drivers and personalities that make up the greatest dirt racing on earth. The Winged Nation Preview Podcast each Thursday previews the upcoming weekend. Winged Nation, winged sprint car talk covering dirt tracks all across America.
Cain and Alex Hayden visiting the ISC Archives and Research Center in Daytona Beach on MRN Outloud. We just wanted to show you some of the cool stuff that's in here. If you get a chance, hook up with Daytona International Speedway. The DIS tours, the VIP tour will get you in here to see a lot of this stuff. But Alex, movie buffs who may not be huge racing fans are going to recognize this in particular.
The actual helmet here that Tom Cruise wore, and he actually autographed the top of the helmet from Days of Thunder. Cole Trickle, that's the helmet, the real deal right there. And yes, you can get as close as we are to it when you come on that tour.
Yeah.
It is spectacular. Obviously, there's cool things in here from all the programs from every racetrack to the helmet from the movie. We can even have Dave Marcus's
Look at that.
famous wingtips that are here as well. You know, even when Dave Marcus raced, Woody, you know this, as everybody does, it didn't matter if these companies came out with the fireproof shoes or not. He wore his wingtips, and these are an actual pair. They're worn down to the nub here.
I remember years ago when we used to go on the media tour that Charlotte Motor Speedway set up, one of the visits was to Dave Marcus's shop. And this was around the time the Garage Mahal at DEI was coming onto line, and everybody was wowed by that, of course, and it was a fantastic place. So we go to visit Dave Marcus's, and it's like your neighborhood shade tree mechanic, the guy who would work on your car and change your plugs and oil in your car. Dirt floor, oil cans and shelving all around the unit. It's just as old school as you can get, and Dave Marcus did that for years and years. Even when the sport started to go like this in terms of technology and all the stuff around these shops, he was sticking to his roots, baby.
A cool guy, and he's just as cool now. I spent some time with him not too long ago. Just as cool now as he ever was, and he still carries around that Goodyear hat, and he wears it proudly out there. Dave Marcus is just one of the great characters of NASCAR's racing history. No, he didn't win a ton of races. No, he wasn't the champion, but boy, Dave Marcus has so much to do with the history of our sport.
Have we kind of lost something now that that era is passed us by?
I think there's a degree of that that's missing. I do, but on the same token, we don't know what type of characters are going to come down the road. We don't know right now with some of these younger drivers that are currently involved in the sport what type of personality they're going to have, because they're just getting their feet wet till they get comfortable in their own skin, being around the cameras, being around you and me,
Yeah.
we're going to find
That
out.
will be difficult.
There's a lot of characters in there right now in that garage area.
I'm thinking, though, in terms of you just had Alan Kulwicki get inducted in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. The owner-driver, the hard-scrabble guy who comes up and does it and builds it himself and is so hands-on. That's really gone now. I mean, I know there's a progression from like a Dave Marcus to an Alan Kulwicki, but now that's not really the path anymore.
And Alan Kulwicki was essentially the last one, the last guy to do it his way, as the owner, as the driver. The sport has changed. So many things have changed in this world, and the sport's no different from that. So as of now, I think that was the last time we're going to see that. That doesn't mean somebody somewhere along the way is going to say, you know what, I'm going to build this race car and I'm going to come out and I'm going to do this my way.
Not going to happen much anymore. All right, we're going to show you some of the other stuff around here. Don't forget that MRN Out Loud is presented by Outback Steakhouse, but you got to come to the ISC Archives and Research Center and see some of the really cool stuff, the pictures, the artifacts, you name it, it's here. We're going to take you to a room that you won't believe after this.
I'm not blooming good, I'm blooming great. Put a shrimp on the barbie and sizzle my steak. Woo, I'm on that onion to bloom, and it get in my senses like a sonic boom. No rules, just right. So bold, so nice, and I'm so ready for that Outback steak tonight. Outback Steakhouse, that's what it's all about. Outback Steakhouse, blooming great.
In order to maximize a vehicle's performance and efficiency, the proper adjustments need to be made based on the road ahead. That's true for both race car drivers on the track and for truck drivers hauling freight on the highway. But if your truck's equipped with a Detroit DT12 automated manual transmission with intelligent powertrain management, adjustments are made automatically based on GPS terrain mapping, maximizing performance and efficiency. Don't just want better business solutions, demand them. Learn more at demanddetroit.com.
Hi, this is Mike Backley. Join me and the rest of the MRN crew every Tuesday night for NASCAR Live. We'll get you up to date with the latest news stories and ready for the upcoming race weekend.
That's what it boils down to. You know, anything can happen in between, and we've seen it the last few years, kind of how crazy things can get.
Hear exclusive interviews, expert analysis, and much more.
Wheel that thing, brother, wheel it! That's why you never give up, guys. Never give up.
It's NASCAR Live this Tuesday night at 7 Eastern on the Motor Racing Network.
MRN Out Loud at the ISC Archives and Research Center in Daytona Beach. I'm Woody Cain alongside Alex Hayden. Outback Steakhouse is presenting the program. And Alex, this is as real as it gets. A full-scale replica of the walls, but all the other stuff in here is real, of Big Bill's office.
Bill France Sr., the founder of NASCAR, everything in here, other than the paneling, everything was in his office. This is his desk, his rulers, his pens, his leather chair. By the way, Woody, I'm going to pull this out and have you sit down.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
You ready to take your seat right here?
I'm ready to be escorted off the property if that happens. But look at all the cool stuff in here. These are all the original items that were in Big Bill's office. Can you imagine if some of this stuff could talk?
Unbelievable. It really is. The books that you're seeing there, they're autographed copies from Enzo Ferrari, of all people. There's an A.J. Foyt book. Some of the greatest things. His hat collection is here. Some of them, as you're seeing right now, his guitar. So many cool things. And again, all of this is the real deal, directly from Bill France Sr.'s office.
All these great pictures. You're seeing presidents, all kinds of celebrities, old school photos in there as well. All kinds of really cool stuff. And I just imagine being a fly on the wall and Big Bill is sitting in this chair. Somebody comes in to get the scolding.
Oh boy.
You know, can you imagine what that must have been like?
I can't. It's intimidating enough just standing here right now.
Yeah.
But to be called into the principal's office, no thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the real deal couch that's right across from the desk. And if you notice, the couch sits a lot lower than the leather chair
Exactly.
does.
That's by design.
You're gonna have to look up to Mr. France. That's
Yeah.
the way it worked. Talk about the home field advantage. Right here it is.
Now, there's a jacket over here in the corner that I think you should get a replica of and start wearing on race days. Is that not the coolest thing ever?
Unbelievable. It really is. Again, real deal. That's his real jacket, his personal effects. Bill France Sr., the founder of NASCAR. And oh, by the way, Woody, if you come on that VIP experience tour from the Daytona International Speedway, you can come right here.
Absolutely. It's fantastic. A lot of cool stuff to see. He's even got the Code International, the International Sporting Code, the rule book from 1955, from 1960, IMSA stuff on there, stopwatches, all the original stuff, you can visit Bill France Sr.'s office here at the ISC Archives and Research Center. There's a whole lot more to show you here. We'll take another quick time out, come back and show you some of the more famous cars in NASCAR history. Daytona 500. These are the vehicles that put that race on the map.
I'm not blooming good, I'm blooming great. Put a shrimp on the barbie and sizzle my steak. Woo, I want that onion to bloom, and it get in my senses like a sonic boom. No rules, just right. So cold, so nice, and I'm so ready for that Outback steak tonight. Outback Steakhouse, that's what it's all about. Outback Steakhouse, blooming great.
Experience different.
Boyer sees the checkered flag.
Experience excitement, drama, and action.
And he wins the STP 500.
Experience NASCAR at its best. Experience Martinsville. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series returns to Martinsville Speedway March 24th for the STP 500. Tickets start at just $47 and are on sale now. Call 877-RACE-TICKS or visit martinsvillespeedway.com today to start your experience.
Veteran drivers and rookie drivers. NASCAR Today Midday keeps you up to date with all your favorites each weekday.
It's a dream come true. A lot of you know the path that I've gone down.
There's a lot of opportunity with the package changes, you know, with the Chevrolet and the work they're putting in. And I know one thing's for sure, it's good to have my name on the top of the Cup car.
Don't miss any of the breaking NASCAR news with NASCAR Today Midday. Only on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
At the ISC Archives and Research Center, MRN Outloud, Woody Cain and Alex Hayden. And these cars that we're standing in front of now are among the most famous in NASCAR history. Really, this is the incident, this is the situation that put NASCAR racing and Daytona on the map from a national perspective.
It absolutely did. The 1979 Daytona 500, Cale Yarborough and, of course, Donnie Allison, these two drivers battling down the backstretch. They get together, they bounce off of one another, they end up both in a heaping pile, slamming into the outside turn 3 wall, and then of course down the 31 degrees of banking to the infield grass, and
here we go.
Then it gets on. Bobby Allison stops to help his brother Donnie out, and one thing led to another. Depends on who you talk to. Either Cale threw the first punch, or if you talk to Bobby Allison, Bobby says Cale's nose through the first punch to his fist.
But that's really the and by the way, while all this was going on, Richard Petty goes on and wins.
Yeah.
Just by the way, a lot of people forget that part. Everybody was so interested in the fight. These are courtesy of the NASCAR Hall of Fame. You can see some of the pictures back there of the fight itself, and the guys are throwing haymakers at each other. It looks like the old record kung fu fighting going on. Everybody was kung fu fighting, but these cars are just fantastic. Look how squared they are compared to what we see nowadays, Alex.
It's amazing, it really is. And you know, as a kid watching this race, because I was one of them, I was watching this race, as most of the country was.
Wasn't there a snowstorm around the country that weekend?
The majority of the country was in a blizzard. So, and there's nothing on TV, so you flip it on and say, what is this NASCAR thing? Some people may have even heard of the Daytona 500, but nobody's ever seen a race flag to flag in its entirety. And we were sitting around watching this race. I was in love with the Hawaiian Tropic car. It was my favorite race car. I like Donnie Allison. He wasn't my favorite driver, I'll tell you.
But you get attached to a look when you're young, right?
I fell in love with the Hawaiian Tropic car, and to see what was going on that last lap, I remember jumping up and down and being one of those fans that was yelling at the TV because they took out my Hawaiian Tropic race car. So I was upset about that. It was fantastic, and obviously a staple in the history of our sport.
But you know, for a long time, that sort of thing went by the wayside, and it was really more buttoned up. You didn't see a lot of that. When we've been doing the chase and the playoffs and that, it's brought out some of that fire, and guys have gotten up in each other's business a couple times after races, or during now.
They have, and guys like Kevin Harvick and Tony Stewart, who was going to be a Hall of Famer someday, they weren't afraid to really mix it up. Brad Keselowski's not afraid.
He and Jeff Gordon got after it.
Logano and Kenseth, they get after it a bit. So even Matt Kenseth had a little tip with Brad
Imagine
Keselowski, chasing him in between the haulers. But that means there's passion. That means these drivers care about getting that trophy, getting that glory, and getting to victory lane. That's what NASCAR's racing is all about. It's fantastic, and this is just, I think, the real, I guess, kickstart to what we've seen right now.
Before we go, let's look ahead a little bit. Triple header action coming up this weekend. We'll have the trucks on Friday night, Xfinity Saturday, Cup on Sunday. A lot of big stories to talk about in all those classes. Is Johnny Sauter going to be available? Is he going to come back after that ride? Who's going to be the new Xfinity Series champion because the champ moved to another team? Christopher Bell is really good. And then the Cup thing, we saw Bubba Wallace get the second place run in dramatic fashion last year. Austin Dillon wins it. It's the 50th year now for RCR. What's going to happen?
I don't know, but that's the beauty of it all.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about it, it starts our season. Everybody's fired up. The trucks are ready to get on the track and get their 2019 campaign underway. The Xfinity car is the exact same way, and obviously it's the Great American Race. It's the 61st running of the Daytona 500. So much excitement is in the air with everybody across the board, and we're talking race fans, we're talking the teams, the drivers, us. We're fired up and ready to go, and that's the great thing about NASCAR racing and starting it off in Daytona, our biggest and best event of the entire season. You can't start it any better than that. The trucks are ready to go racing. Always one of the best shows of Speedweeks and one of the best shows of the entire year. Let's face it.
And how about the champ? The champ moves from one team to another, doesn't get funding. Somebody else comes and gets that ride. He goes to a ride of a former champ, and Johnny Sauter. What in the world is going on there? It's just a different era.
It's chaos, but that's the beauty of it, and that's fun to stay on top of and understand what's going on, different stories that are happening and playing out, because everybody has a story. And we're going to do our best on Motor Racing Network to bring every story to you. We're going to race Friday night, we're going to race Saturday afternoon, and the Sunday afternoon in the Daytona 500. It's Daytona, it's 2019, the season's ready to go. I'm excited, I'm fired up.
Going to be a lot of fun. Check out MRN.com for all the scheduling details to find out what you want to be a part of. We've got practice coverage as well, qualifying coverage. Make sure you check out all those details to be available. Also want to thank Outback Steakhouse for being our sponsor on MRN Out Loud. Go by, visit them, get the Bloomin' Onion. It's Bloomin' Monday. Tell them that you heard about it right here on the Motor Racing Network. Thanks also to the ISC Archives and Research Center. I'm Woody Cain. That's Alex Hayden. We'll see you right back here next week.